You said yes to the plans. You meant it when you said yes. But now it's Friday night. It's getting closer. And something in you is quietly hoping they cancel. Not because you don't care. Not because you're depressed. Not because anything is wrong. Just because the idea of staying home, completely alone, completely quiet, sounds like the best possible version of tonight. If that's you, this video is going to explain something about yourself that nobody ever bothered to tell you. Here's how it usually goes. The invitation comes in and you genuinely want to go. In theory. In the abstract, future version of the plan, yes, absolutely, sounds great. But then the day arrives, and your bed is warm, and the thought of getting dressed, driving somewhere loud, making conversation with people you half know, laughing at the right moments, staying until it's socially acceptable to leave. Suddenly the whole thing feels like a project. So you cancel. Or you go and spend half the night calculating when you can leave. Or you sit there physically present but mentally already home, already in the quiet, already breathing again. And afterward, here's the part nobody talks about. You don't feel guilty about missing it. You feel relieved. The world has a word for people like you. Antisocial. Boring. A homebody said like it's a diagnosis. Like something needs fixing. But what if nothing needs fixing? What if the way you're wired isn't a flaw? It's just a different operating system. One that runs better in certain conditions than others. Because the psychology behind people who genuinely prefer staying home is a lot more interesting and a lot more legitimate than the culture around us wants to admit. Here's where the science gets interesting. Your nervous system has a threshold, a level of stimulation it needs to feel comfortable and regulated. Think of it like a volume dial. Some people need the dial turned up high. The noise, the crowd, the unpredictability, the constant input. That's what makes them feel alive and energized. Take it away and they get restless, flat, bored. But other people, their dial is already sitting higher by default. Their nervous system is processing more sensation, more input, more social information, even in a neutral environment. Which means the same party that energizes one person genuinely overloads another. Not because they're weak, because their baseline is different. Psychologists call this differences in optimal arousal. It's not a disorder. It's not shyness. It's neurological wiring. And it means that for a significant portion of people, social interaction, even enjoyable social interaction, costs energy in a way it simply doesn't for others. Think of it this way. Imagine your social battery is a phone. Some phones have massive batteries. They charge fast and last for days. Others are efficient but smaller. They do everything the bigger phone does, just need to recharge more often. The phone with the smaller battery isn't broken. It's not inferior. It just has different requirements. Home is where people like this recharge. Not metaphorically, literally. The quiet, the control, the absence of performance. That's not laziness. That's maintenance. And here's something worth sitting with for a second. The exhaustion you feel after a long social day, the kind where you come home and genuinely need to sit in silence for 20 minutes before you can function. That's not in your head. That's your nervous system completing a recovery process. It's been waiting to run all day. Now here's the part that might genuinely reframe how you see yourself. Staying home isn't passive. For people wired this way, it's often where their most active mental life happens. There's a consistent pattern in research on solitude and creativity. The conditions that allow deep thinking, original ideas, and genuine insight are almost always quiet, uninterrupted, and self-directed. The kind of conditions you can only really find alone. The reason isn't mysterious. When you remove social performance from the equation, the monitoring of how you're coming across, the managing of other people's emotional states, the navigation of group dynamics, your brain gets its full processing power back. And it uses it. The thought spirals at midnight. The sudden clarity about a problem you've been stuck on for weeks. The creative ideas that only seem to arrive when nobody's watching. That's not coincidence. That's what your brain does when it finally has enough space. Here's the counterintuitive truth. The people society labels as doing nothing, the ones staying in on a Saturday, turning down the invitation, choosing quiet over chaos, are often the ones doing the most internal work. Processing, creating, thinking, feeling. Just not publicly. Just not in a way that photographs well. Depth over noise isn't a consolation prize. For some people, it's the whole point. But there's something important to name here. Because this isn't one size fits all. Not everyone who stays home is recharging. Some people are hiding. There's a real difference between solitude as restoration and isolation as avoidance. Between choosing quiet because it genuinely fills you up and staying in because going out feels too heavy, too risky, too likely to go wrong. Between loving your own company and being afraid of everyone else's. If your home feels like a sanctuary, a place you return to with relief, where you feel like yourself, where you're choosing to be, that's peace. That's a healthy relationship with solitude. But if your home is starting to feel like a perimeter, a boundary between you and a world that feels increasingly overwhelming, that's worth paying attention to. Not with judgment, but with honesty. The question to ask yourself isn't, do I prefer staying home? Almost everyone prefers staying home sometimes. The question is, when you imagine leaving, going somewhere, being around people, engaging with the world, does that feel like something you're choosing against, or something that started to feel impossible? One is a preference. The other is a signal worth listening to. And if you recognize yourself in that second description, that's not something to be ashamed of. It's something to be curious about. Because the same self-awareness that makes you good at solitude makes you capable of understanding what's actually going on. So what do you actually do with any of this? Two things. Both honest. Neither complicated. First, stop apologizing for your wiring. You don't owe the world an extroverted version of yourself. You don't have to pretend that crowds energize you, that small talk doesn't drain you, or that a quiet night in is a failure of some kind. Your nervous system has requirements. Meeting them isn't antisocial. It's intelligent. The most useful thing you can do is get clear on what actually restores you. Not what's supposed to restore you, not what looks good, not what everyone else seems to enjoy. What genuinely leaves you feeling more like yourself than before. Then protect that, without explanation and without guilt. Second, stay honest about the line. Check in with yourself occasionally. Not obsessively, just honestly. Is home still feeling like a choice? Are you still saying yes to things sometimes, even when it costs something? Are there people in your life you're maintaining real contact with, even if it's quiet contact? Solitude is healthy. Sustained disconnection from everything and everyone. That's something different. The line between them is worth knowing. Here's what I want you to take from this. The version of you that cancels plans, that exhales when the house goes quiet, that finds more meaning in a slow morning alone than in a crowded room. That version of you is not broken, is not boring, is not missing out on the life they're supposed to be living. That version of you is just wired for a different kind of richness. The kind that doesn't make noise. The kind that doesn't perform. The kind that most people are too distracted to find. You don't need to justify a preference for depth. You don't need to fix a nervous system that works differently. You don't need to become more of something you're not to earn the right to live the way you actually want to live. The world is loud. It has always been loud. And there have always been people who knew, quietly, that the best parts of life happen in the spaces between the noise. You're one of them. And that's not something to hide. That's something to understand. If this video made you feel seen, hit the like button. It genuinely helps more people find this content. And if you want to keep understanding yourself at this level, subscribe. There's more where this came from.